Muted and live. You ready?
Great. Have we heard anything from Sally? We're
She should
expecting
be
her.
on her way.
Let's give her at least the rest of the minute.
And then Matt Shack Powers will be our first presenter.
Oh, boy.
It's been a long time.
There I go. I got a backup if you need.
Well, it's more like Aaron just got me these shorts.
Okay.
There's not. Oh, no. Yeah, you did.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, boy. Do you know if we have to do those separately? We have to like go in, then come out, and then go in, and then come out
Yeah.
again.
Well, we could ask Clayton if we could do them together. It's been, as long as we all agree that we would.
We might just have to
talk.
mark the timer, so if someone needs the record for one. we can
Yeah.
get it separate from the record for the other, or split the recording.
Okay.
It's like there's someone coming.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, for those who'd like to do the pledge of allegiance, let's go ahead and.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees. It's July 11th and the time is 7:02 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis. Here. Trustee Craner.
Here.
Trustee Harper.
Here.
Trustee Bierman.
Here.
Trustee Doolin.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Here.
Furman.
Here. Thank you. Do we have any revisions to tonight's agenda?
No, we do not.
Wonderful. Any board revisions to the agenda? No. Okay, cool. All right, at this time, we'll open up public comment. We don't have anyone in person tonight, so we'll go to our Zoom participants. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to the first item on our agenda, which is new business 4A, consideration to sign a letter of support for the Southwest COG, an introduction to Chicago Powers, the new project manager.
And we have Shack Powers with the Southwest Council of Governments to introduce himself and familiarize you all with some of the projects that they're undertaking right now. Hi, Shack.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Can't hear you.
You cannot hear me?
We still can't hear you.
That might be our volume though, because it's
Oh,
showing.
hold on just one sec. We're checking our volume here. Try one more time.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. Thank you, board, for having me this evening. I apologize for not being able to appear in person. I'm at a summit, an infrastructure summit up in Glenwood Springs. So I appreciate you allowing me to appear remotely. My name is Shack Powers. Region 9 just hired me to be their project manager for broadband, for housing, and for transportation matters. So prior to that, I was the county administrator over in Montezuma County. And I had the good fortune to be able to come up to Silverton a week ago and speak with Willie and speak with Gloria. And I've had the opportunity to meet with Beth a couple of times, and like to take the opportunity this evening to discuss some of the opportunities that are coming down with broadband. And can I share content? Can I share screen, or would you like to put up the PowerPoint and have me?
You should be able to have sharing capabilities.
Let me see if I can do
Matt, I'll
that.
send this over to Matt real quick.
Google Drive box. Let's see here. I'm having to do this from a phone because I'm at a summit. So give me just 1 second here.
They look up first.
PowerPoints.
Yeah. Can you pull it up? Oh, we can pull it up on our end.
Okay. All right. Well, if you can see it on your end there, if you'll share a screen, I'll be able to navigate through it with you.
Yes, it is on our screen now.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I'd like to talk about the priority middle mile and capital infrastructure programs that are coming down. So if you'll advance to the next slide, that would be great. So currently coming down from the Colorado Broadband Office and from the feds with part of the infrastructure plan and the state and local fiscal recovery funds is a project for enabling middle mile broadband infrastructure. And the state's going to have access to between $5 and $100 million for that. And then they're going to have a capital projects fund. And that is going to be prioritized first to build out Colorado's backbone of infrastructure. And then second, to address unserved and underserved residents of Colorado, which I think most of San Juan County meets the definition of 25 down, 3 up or less. So that's definitely a good start. And they want to see community-driven programs that involve partnerships between municipalities, providers, and other stakeholders, in this case, counties and the regions. Now, it should be noted that these grants require a 25% match. And so Region 9 is working to apply on behalf of the whole region, try to get some of that match included as in-kind and identify other sources for ongoing matches. That would help alleviate burden from smaller communities such as Silverton and San Juan County and probably Dolores County, the town of Dove Creek and Rico and the sort. If you go to the next slide, please. Basically, nonprofits, local governments, and COGS can apply for this funding. And private ISPs also can, but they have to show government partnership. We're working to provide an initial letter on behalf of the entire region and to be able to show an entire collaboration between the 5 county areas, the 10 municipalities, and the tribes. And ideally, if we could apply for this and get all the IGAs in place, what we would like to do is prioritize in the contracts when they come out the underdeveloped areas such as Silverton, Rico, some of those areas that are way underdeveloped and get less attention, make those the starting point, and then be able to have the more concentrated population areas as the finish point. That way the contractors who take on the jobs have something to work towards instead of starting where the dense population is and then walking away. Next slide, please. So why does it matter? Broadband access and connectivity is listed as a high priority for all the Region 9 communities and their community economic development strategies, their CEDS and their CDAPs, their Community Development Action Plan. It appears in number 32 in San Juan County's SEDS. And if you'll advance to the next screen, will see how it appears there. It's listed in the third column as a high-ranking priority. Obviously, the partners are the San Juan County, the town of Silverton, the Southwest COG, which is now also in partnership with Region 9, San Miguel Power, and then CDOT, and then the ISPs. The ISPs may need to be updated on there, but the highest priorities that were identified when your SEDS were updated with Heather Otter 2 years ago were to complete segments of in-ground fiber cable installation, explore the potential of ENA completing the project, installing redundancy, and I think that's going to be key, getting from Cascade and then overpass overwards, and then getting CDOT's right of way and being able to use some of that, and then installation of wireless where it makes sense. If you go to the next slide, we can continue talking about why it matters. The first reason is because government has a responsibility to provide for commerce. The U.S. Constitution in Article 1, Section 8 is the Interstate Commerce Act. There aren't a whole lot of duties specifically given to government by the Constitution, but providing for commerce is one of those. And there are approximately 2.14 billion online shoppers worldwide. And if you'll go to the next slide, I'll show you how that breaks down by region. In the Region 9 area, retail trade is the highest job sector by category. And that's Region 9 wide. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see specifically in San Juan County and Silverton that it is not only is it the highest in San Juan County, but it's 56% greater than the next highest industry. And so really to give your industry the best opportunity to compete in a global market, they've got to have access to good, reliable, high-speed internet, and it's got to be redundantly available so it doesn't get shut down. Next slide, please. So the project summary, Region 9 is working to build collaboration with the counties, with the municipalities, with Southern Ute Tribe. And for San Juan County and Silverton, it has been identified that the priorities are to get from Silverton to Uray and through Ophir, depending on the capacity for building, and then getting down to Cascade as well. So trying to build that redundancy over 550, possibly over overpass into Uray, and trying to just get fiber in instead of the wireless that you've had to use from CenturyLink, and making it redundant so you got two ways in and out. Next slide, please. So this is a drawing of what that would look like based on current priorities. What's being built out is already in yellow, and then the red and orange would be the priority builds to get funding for, to get that fiber in the ground. Next slide, please. So what are we trying to do with this? Well, provide safety and redundancy routes for the state's fiber network. That's what Corey is working on with Region 10 and with DOLA, trying to get that statewide network built out, and then provide safety and redundancy routes within the region, and then to provide rural community members access to commerce, education, healthcare, mental health services that are often unavailable in local rural areas. And some of those, for example, in 2020, Access Health started increasing their telehealth options so that patients could do their appointments by phone or video. They don't have to go into the office, and that's all well and good unless the patients don't have internet access and don't have the computer access to do it. Fort Lewis College also has expanded students' learning environments from on campus to hybrid and what they call high flex and online courses. But again, students don't have access to that unless they have high-speed internet that meets the college's requirements. And then, of course, the next priorities would be to provide higher connectivity speeds to the unserved and the underserved, and provide services to homes that currently do not have access to internet, and provide infrastructure for your largest employment by sector to be able to participate outside the region and bring outside dollars into Silverton. And so if we could go to the next slide, great. What we're currently doing is working with your staff, specifically Beth and the ISPs, to gather quantitative and qualitative data to support a proposal. The grant cycle won't open until January, so we're in the information gathering phase. But what we want to show is how many residents and businesses are currently served and how many more could be served if this is built out, and then try to find capital contribution costs that the ISPs could provide, and identify any subsidies. We did learn, interestingly enough, today at the summit that DOLA has set aside money to be able to be used for low-income rural areas to be used as matches against some of these federal grants. So that'd be good. And then, of course, we want to get shape files to be able to provide a visual representation of what the project will look like and who it will serve when it's finished. Next slide, please. So we also need to work to show community engagement and public participation. Part of what we're trying to do tonight is reach out. So I don't know how all this is being broadcast, but as such, we have two asks tonight. The first one's going to be from a letter of support from the town trustees saying that San Juan County and the town of Silverton support the regional project. And then the second would be a commitment to work with us to conduct regular meetings to solicit community input as the projects are planned and implemented. So I'd like to be able to work with the Board of Trustees on a semi-regular basis as this is planned out, maybe quarterly, and then maybe more frequently as it's implemented. And at this time, the last slide will allow me to entertain any questions that the board may have. So you're either all so confused you don't know what to ask, or you're so enlightened that you don't need to ask anything.
Well, Shaq, thank you very much. This is a really helpful, I think, thorough presentation. The only question I can think of is, are there things in addition to the letter of support that would be helpful for getting this important infrastructure work completed?
So we're going to have to show regional collaboration, and that's what this letter is going to be. And then as we go into the grant writing phase, once the grants open up, well, Beth is already doing a lot of the heavy lifting, working with the ISPs to help us gather data. And as we work on the grant narrative, we might just be leaning on your staff a little bit to make sure that the information that we're putting forth is an accurate representation. And then just to do that ongoing community collaboration as this moves forward, maybe quarterly meetings with the public or whatever, if we were able to use your meeting space there, just to make sure that everybody is on board and that we keep the public apprised of what's happening.
Great. Tyler?
Yeah, we had presentations given to us at the beginning of our last two meetings, or maybe the previous two meetings.
by Vero and I don't remember the name of the other one.
Clear Networks.
Clear Networks. Okay, so, and maybe I'm just confused, but I thought that they were putting in their own fiber lines to Silverton. So will this be another redundancy or are they piggybacking off of what you guys put in and then only providing last mile services?
Zach, do you mind if I answer that? So they are providing in the town of Silverton.
Okay,
And so what Shaq's helping out with is getting that redundancy in.
okay.
So they're just going to be building out the fiber in Silverton. And then after that, hopefully we can get
Perfect.
some redundancy.
Thank you.
And thank you for that. And I also believe that they will be working through their sister company or their other company that they own, Deeply Digital, to try to help with the build overpass. But I'm not sure. They're definitely giving input on the engineering. I'm not sure who ultimately will win the bid proposal on that.
Great.
I saw that we were number 30. This was priority number 32 on the CDAP. I'm not exactly sure what the CDAP is or how we got to the number 32, but it didn't seem, and I don't know what the scale is, like, is it 32 out of 33? But I didn't perceive that as looking very high priority. And I'm wondering if there's a if there's a benefit to grant writing, where is that number strong enough to
I'd love to
create
answer
priority?
the question. Yeah, thank you. If you would back up to the slide that shows the area
It
that
said
we've
it ranks
copied.
as high. Yeah.
Yeah. So those numbers are not the priority number. The third column that you see there is the ranking and how the community ranked it. And they ranked it as a high priority. Those numbers in the first column are just to keep a number for every project that the community wants to put forward. If you go through the whole community development action plan, there will be some ranked high, some ranked medium, and some ranked low. So that's not where it ranks on the priority list. It's just what number it happened to catch during the discussion. But the ranking for it is the third column, and it ranked very high priority list. So thank you for that question.
And I'll send those out to you all so you can get a refresher on those.
Yeah, I was gonna say also, if the new trustees haven't seen that, the Colorado Development Action Plan is super interesting because it shows pretty much everything the town or county have talked about wanting to do and then rank them in order.
So I can send those out.
Yeah, Dana?
Yeah, Shaq, thanks for coming. I just wanted to really say I appreciate the work that you're doing and how closely you're working with the different communities. I think this is such an important project and really appreciate that we can help everyone who may have felt skeptical over the years about high-speed internet coming to Silverton, that really progress is being made. We're tapping into some of the federal funding that's coming out. And so, yeah, really appreciate it. Appreciate your work with Beth and with our staff. So thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And then, so to conclude this section, we do have a request for a motion to support or to provide this letter of support. If a trustee would like to make that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Cranker?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Vierman?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Trustee Barney?
Yes.
Affirmative.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thanks. All right, thank you, Shaq.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure you'll be in touch with Gloria and other staff members about setting up those quarterly meetings or as needed.
I will be. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, moving on to new business 4B, consideration to conduct the first reading of ordinance 2022-02 and the ordinance establishing municipal regulations concerning special events within incorporated town limits.
And so as the ordinance number there is 02, it's been brought back after being off the agenda and then coming back onto the agenda. We last met with the Personnel and Ordinance Committee and inform them that the special events guide that we had originally presented with this ordinance is being completely rewritten from what was presented before. But after we talked with our attorney and he said we could pass the ordinance while we are still writing this special events guide as it's referenced in the ordinance. The ordinance addresses the need to have something in our code that allows the town to facilitate a special event program. And the guide it references will be a working document and will be presented for adoption once it has been tested and proven.
Any questions or discussion about the ordinance presented?
I'll make a motion to conduct the first reading and adoption of the ordinance 2022-02 and ordinance establishing municipal regulations concerning special events within incorporated town limits.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Finger.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Vierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Ferraro.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you.
We sure we don't have to read the entire?
I'm glad we
We're on a roll, Tyler. Don't stop us now.
Funny joke.
Right, moving on to consideration to adopt resolution 2022-13, a resolution opting out of the family medical leave insurance program. And this one is a little counterintuitive, so
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Pretty helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually one of the sessions that I attended at the CCCMA conference to understand this a little bit better, so we would make a good decision. Melina has done a good outlining a memo for you all. What I think is important to know is that our current short-term disability offers a greater benefit to our employees, which is a higher payout. And so that's pretty much the biggest part of the benefit is they get a higher payout. They're not capped at a certain amount. And then they do have to wait 30 days for our current short-term disability. But they can opt into this program individually without us facilitating it. So pretty much any employee, and it's really cool, and anywhere in Colorado now, if you're employed over a certain amount of hours, then, and if you make a certain amount of money, then you can actually be eligible for this program. So kind of wanted to get that word out there too, that anyone can opt into this. Municipalities have the option to opt out. We typically have better benefits than what is offered at the state level. And after our evaluation, we've felt it was better that we kept our short-term disability benefits. But that doesn't preclude an employee from opting in.
So they still have choice, so.
Right. Mhm. And our part-time employees could opt into this if they wanted to.
Nice.
I'll make a motion if there's no more discussion.
And does it save the town money?
So it will in the long term. For the first year, it won't because it's set so low. But then actually the percentage goes up after 5 years. So we kind of did an analysis on would it save us money in the long haul? And we came to the conclusion that we offer better benefits, and then in the long term, it wouldn't save us money.
There was a comment that popped up super quick that I didn't.
I do wonder, this is a little bit out of this discussion, but I am wondering if this is something we need to figure out.
Well, this
Just
is
overall.
for, I think staff interjecting like that. It's
Oh,
different than
oh.
like public comment.
Got
Oh,
it.
yeah, this is
I didn't know who was chatting. I just,
Melina.
I do wonder about how we incorporate.
But since that doesn't come up on YouTube, I think you'd have to say it out loud so that it's.
Right, so our current short-term disability is 26 weeks we cover, and state only covers 12 weeks.
And then separately, outside of this discussion, we should figure out how to
Yes,
about meeting protocols and how there's a chat feature on this.
yes.
And again, so just so it's really clear for everybody, individual staff at the town or elsewhere can still enroll individually and add that on top of the short-term disability policy that's offered.
Right, they would be responsible for their report to the state. If we had opted in, then we would be responsible for that, but the individual is now responsible.
Gotcha. So we would bear the administrative burden if we were opting in.
Correct.
And so the main benefit to us is not doing that. Not
That's one of them, yeah,
one of them.
absolutely.
Is the reporting impact burdensome to staff if they wanted to? Like they just one-time enrollment, not a big deal.
As far as being an
If
individual,
you wanted to opt in individually.
yeah, so they would have to report it. I think it's annually or quarterly.
Okay.
They would have to report it and they pay into it. I think it's a minimal amount, but they would pay into it as well.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2022-13 to opt out of the Family Medical Leave Insurance Program. A second.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Kramer.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Beerman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Do we also have any objection to providing direction to staff to notify family division of the vote to opt out on letterhead indicating the date of the vote and the results of the vote? No objections?
No objection.
And that is protocol. Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to new business item 4D, consideration to approve compensation adjustments.
So the proposed compensation adjustments are not based on merit or years of experience. This compensation adjustment is a conservative approach to being able to get positions up to a minimum salary it would take to replace that position. There are still two positions, the public works and the administrator who are still below that mark. But we felt it would be better used if we could get our other positions below us up to par. So in case they left us. The proposal is based off of what other municipalities our size have advertised for open positions. The Colorado Municipal League Compensation Survey data from 2021, I should state, as well as reaching out to neighboring communities for their specific salaries. This adjustment would take place on October 1st. So this is a fourth quarter adjustment and would not need an additional budget appropriation as we've already budgeted that in with our salaries.
And I think it's also important to note that later on this evening, when we talk about our trustee goals and adopting those, the first one was to strategically expand staff capacity. And within that, the first objective was retaining current staff, which included salary evaluations, benefits, and other things like that.
That was such a great connection. I was just right there. I was like, this directly relates to what our goal was.
I support these adjustments. I think it's really healthy for the town to look at salaries in this way, and you've done a great job of lining it out as in terms of percentages and overall amounts. And I think just you've noted that the exception to this increase would be the Director of Public Works and the town administrator position. And I'm wondering if there's a plan or if we can work towards, in light of the goals that we've set, a plan to address that significant differential over time. And I don't know how that might look, but I noted, just looking at the comparisons between the communities, that those two positions were the most significantly off.
Yeah, and it was something that John and I discussed at a meeting, and when we were kind of talking about this buffer that we had, we just kind of stepped back a little bit. But definitely for our 2023 budget, I will be proposing numbers as well for that.
And so we can anticipate those two positions coming more in line with
Yes,
local markets.
yes. In the 2023 budget.
Because those are staff we also would like to retain.
Right, yeah, and event that we didn't, which would be horrible, and I do not. I hope this isn't the case. It would leave us really vulnerable.
And the reason that those weren't stepped all the way up in this proposal is mostly because of total budget and just being able to accommodate this
Yes,
within
for
the.
the fourth quarter,
Got
yeah.
it.
And so this would take place this month. And we felt that was kind of as high as we could go this year. But we will be proposing something next year. That's why I pointed out those two positions.
And does the increase in any way leave the town vulnerable from a budget perspective, bringing up the salary 74? It doesn't seem like it would, but I feel like it's prudent to ask the question.
Not in my opinion, given our current trajectory on our revenues. And based on like the average revenue in the last 5 years, I think we'd be able to cover this even if we were, down to 2018 numbers.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposed salary adjustments for town staff.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis. Yes. Trustee Krieger.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. And even though these aren't based on performance, I think it's also nice to note that staff's been doing an awesome job. Capacity has increased dramatically. We're getting all of our to-dos done pretty quickly and efficiently. So hopefully this helps with morale and culture as well.
Thank you.
Even just thinking about our new business, all these items, these relate to goals that we've talked about, things we wanted to do. So encouraging.
Excellent.
Great. Moving along to approval of consent agenda items.
I have one note to make. I had an issue with our checks, so I had to print a supplementary AP schedule that I didn't get a chance to publish just because I had to figure out how to make the accounting software like it. It's mostly normal invoices we have for Public Works. The one exception of note is an $11,000 check that is made out to the Department of Local Affairs. And that's to finish off the Main Street Open for Business grant.
And that was what we didn't expend, correct?
Correct.
That was out of the 600,000, we didn't get that 11,000, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis. Yes. Trustee Krieger.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
You. We'll now move along to staff reports.
I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who made the 4th of July a success, especially our firefighters who spent over 1,000 hours volunteer hours setting up those fireworks. We are holding a debrief next Wednesday with the 4th of July Association, Chamber, Fire Departments, town staff, ambulance, and Office of Emergency Management. And we'll kind of debrief the situation and have an even better one next year. I don't know if we can top this one, though. This one was pretty good. We also had 3 applications for the housing coordinator position that closed on Thursday last week. Interviews will be this week, and I hope to have an announcement at the next meeting. And then Beth with San Juan Development Association submitted a grant on June 30th for the revitalization of our town parks, including Memorial Park, Kendall, and Columbine Park. So the total request was $580,000. And the match was our new park facility. So we met with OREC on July 8th and walked each one of the parks and showed them our projects. And we're really crossing our fingers and toes.
About that.
Way to go.
One of the members from that group reached out to me later that day and we had a beer and things sounded very positive.
Excellent. Yeah, we tried to impress them. We took them on a little hike around. Then I can harness any questions on the staff reports.
I saw that you received the tourism board funding grants.
Yes, we did.
That's exciting, $15,000
Mhm.
in total. I can't remember if we've discussed this or if I'm missing something, but is there a plan for what that's allocated for?
Yeah, so the $10,000 is allocated just to the town, and that'll include a webcam and a weather station that will face Kendall, so that people can see the weather conditions and we won't have to report on snow too much. And then one up at Mullis as well. So as well as Mullis will be getting on Starlink. So have access for through hikers and campers to be able to post their pictures online and show them where they're at and kind of use it as a marketing tool, using those people as a marketing tool. And then there's $2,000 in there for discretionary marketing spending. So as we find needs, like if we need more brochures out or something, we can submit that to them for reimbursement. Cool. Yeah. And then the other one was in partnership with the Chamber and San Juan Development Association for these informational kiosks that'll go up around town. And it'll include everything from OHV information to how to conduct yourself in the backcountry and kind of everything in between. So.
Are those going up this season or that's planned for next season?
You know, we have been designing them, so I don't know if Deanne knows which season they're gonna go up in.
Thanks.
Were we able to buy the trucks, the trailers? I saw there's still extra
Yes.
there.
Yeah, John was able to purchase those trailers, or not trailers, but like
Yeah,
Yeah.
storage
trailers.
trucks, things. We haven't
Material.
yet,
Cool.
and I think he still has to empty them out before we get them.
Awesome. Okay, I don't believe we had any committee meetings since our last meeting.
No, we didn't. I should have erased that one.
All good. So then we move on to any trustee reports.
Nice to be in person.
I have a little family news to report as a trustee. Just because I think it's a small town and it's good to share some family information. So our family's gonna do something a little different next year or starting in kind of the middle of September and try to be together more and take advantage of some opportunities that come with Mike, my husband's job. So while our kids are still young, we're gonna just travel a little bit with them and teach them as we're moving from place to place. But even though we'll be kind of in and out of town, I'd still really like to stay in this position and serve out my term. So I think it would be, I'd love for Clay to sort of let everyone know that that's legal and allowed and let me know as well. And then work on kind of how remote attendance for meetings can work over this period of time.
And Clayton and I had talked about this.
Yes, we did.
You want to let them know kind of what we had talked about?
Sure. So, I mean, I think the question really is about what the BOT wants as their remote attendance policy. As a board, you guys can certainly determine that situationally or just in general, that remote attendance is a viable option for somebody who can't be there in person. And I've worked on many boards and town councils where, somebody got injured or somebody was traveling and they attended remotely, especially now through the fancy Zooms and WebExes and all the stuff we have. I mean, I can see my face on my phone, my face on your TV, and the entire board sitting there. It's not as good as in person, but to lose a member of the board like Mayor Pro Tem Barney just because she was traveling would be, I think, a loss to the town and to the entire group. And so I would certainly tell you that yes, Mayor Pro Tem Barney, it is certainly legal and allowed, but that, I think the board should talk amongst themselves about remote attendance and, maybe we can come up with a policy that, you'll attend in person, unless you give certain notice, and then, situations and circumstances that are, exceptional, that, you would allow it for long periods of time. And then just, talk amongst yourselves and decide whether or not you want to adopt something like that informally. And then the staff and myself could maybe follow up with a policy or guideline after such discussion, but you can certainly do it. I advise that you try or at least discuss it, because replacing a good member of the team is harder than, catching up with them on Zoom. So up to you, but yes, certainly you may.
Thanks, Clay.
Thank you.
Would we like to have a work session on just clarifying remote attendance policies? Sure. So I think right now, all our policies pretty much don't address remote attendance. They just say what happens if a trustee misses too many consecutive meetings.
Correct.
I think, if you miss 3 meetings in a row, then.
Yeah. But right now, due to COVID, I mean, we've been all attending so many remote, it's just been normal. So I feel like it's, yeah,
Might as well.
it's become the norm. It's to do and to continue to do.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for being open to hearing it.
Well, I think to echo Clayton's point is like, it's harder to replace someone like Sally than it is to figure out a way to work this, I think.
And I counted the meetings, and I guess depending on whether there's a meeting on Halloween or not, I think it's a total of 5 or 6 meetings till we're back in town. So.
Yeah, and you're still going to be a resident of Silverton.
Yeah, we'll still be resident.
You're not,
Still see you.
you're not moving to Iceland.
Not moving to Iceland. Are there any other questions?
Can I go?
Happy to field any questions.
I go with you. I imagine it's
By
a
all
lot of skiing.
Can't wear this. shirt.
Guys, I have
That
new
might-
news, leaving for an extended period of time.
Cool.
I will add that to our work sessions.
Not really a trustee report, but kind of really more of staff report, but would you like to highlight the sales tax numbers that you
Oh.
know this about?
Sure.
I pull those
Let
up.
me find my email.
Right, I mean, I could read the email if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah, so as a just town update, Gloria shared with us the May sales tax numbers. And we are $62,824 over last year to date. We're $162,171 over 2019 year to date. And we are $231,478 over what we budgeted for sales tax to date for 2022, because we took some conservative assumptions for 2022, not expecting this year to perform as well as last year, which we saw a pretty big boon following the main COVID pullback. So pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Which is great.
With the help of the finance committee there. The budgeting.
Dr. Brown.
Nice job.
Got it.
And so a lot of people around town I hear talking about, like, how are people doing? Is it busier than last year? Is it slower than last year? It's nice to see these numbers coming through, even though it's still just for May, that we're having a strong financial year.
It's a good start. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else on trustee reports? In which case we move to continued business. 9A, consideration to approve the Hard Rockers Holiday Special Event Multi-Year Contract.
And so this is kind of our template contract that we've had for special events that we do renewal. I noticed though that you did point out that we don't have like a back out of it clause for the town. And we do have other special event contracts like this, so, and they all are the same as this one. So I just kind of wanted to point that out, that if we wanted to amend this to have that clause in there, we could. Or if our attorney thinks that we can, I would just like your opinion, Clayton, on how we can back out of this if we didn't add language.
Can I provide a little context?
Sure.
Sure. So I asked the question earlier today. It doesn't, so in order for us to terminate the contract, there's the only condition under which that I saw in the contract was a default by the other party, which still could be cured within 7 days. So whether it's this or any other contract in the future, if the event no longer suits the town or there's something else going on that would make us need to or want to terminate the contract, there isn't really a way for the town to make that decision unilaterally. And so I was asking if it would be possible for these to have some type of like, even if it's like 1 year advance notice, ability to terminate for convenience as opposed to needing the other party to default. And then the reason that it really popped into my mind on this one isn't because of this particular event. It's an awesome event. It has a 4-year renewal term. So it essentially just renews every year or every 4 years for another 4 years. And so it just read to me like this was a forever contract. And I'm sure that was the intention.
I guess, could we as a town board just vote when this came up and say, even maybe when it didn't come up and say, if we can, we should not avoid the resolution, but yeah.
Play on that, but I didn't see a way for us to do that.
My turn?
Yeah, sorry, thanks.
That's all right. I just want to make sure I don't want to talk over anybody. Yeah, Mayor Furman, I think you're absolutely correct. I reviewed the entire contract. I did not write this contract, and it was taken from a template that I had written previously for another special event. I apologize. I don't think it is though. It's missing quite a few things that I would want to have in there. A more robust annual appropriations clause. The insurance has gone from the 1 million, which makes me think this is an old 2018 or 2019 contract, needs to be switched over to the 1.195 million. There's just a few things that need tweaked with it. I do agree that a termination and default clause, a better termination and default clause needs to be added. And I think there's something that, this is something that I can take and deal with staff and get a better special event template agreement, and just kind of update it. It's nothing major. All the major elements are there, but I do agree with, your instinct there, which is, this needs to be a reoccurring annual contract for many reasons. And the reason that you stated it, and then a few other things need to be updated to match the newly legislated insurance minimums, as well as a few other things that we don't really need to get into in depth here. But I would, unless it's incredibly pressing, I would, let staff take a crack at this and bring it back to you to the next meeting. Because I think this should be looked at a little deeper, and we can use this as kind of the impetus to come up with a much better special events template.
And the Hard Rockers isn't until August, correct? So would we have another meeting before so we could make?
Yes, we would.
Can we as a board give an indication that we very much support this contract and it's really just like administrative stuff we want to clean up, and it's not the substance of this that we're postponing?
No, it's definitely not. And it will go for all of the contracts moving forward that we're.
But we would have to go to amend all of the other contracts
Right.
from here on. Yeah.
Right.
Well, we don't have a lot of there's only a few special event agreements in place. I think a lot of the special events we're still seeing come through as special event applications, which is certainly another way to do this. This is really a courtesy that the town is extending to these reoccurring special events. It's not something that's required of you. It truly is a courtesy on your part. I think it's a great thing, and I do appreciate the partnership, but I don't want you to feel you're missing something or otherwise feel obligated. And it is important to have these things. If you're going to forego a special event permit, this is something that you kind of want a little tighter. So, and I think it's fine to say, yeah, we're doing the Hard Rock no matter what, whether they have to actually submit a permit or we get an agreement in place. But I think this is something we can certainly accomplish before the August event.
Cool.
And we can always readopt those other special event agreements and just, once we have a good template, that will be easy.
Should we add a provision that anytime there's some type of regulatory change affecting the town that we can unilaterally amend the contracts to keep us aligned with those regulations? For example, this increase in insurance.
Right. And well, you'll see when you get the thing from me, you'll see that it says, I already have kind of, I'm a little bit ahead of the curve there because I have language that says, the 1,195,000 or is otherwise directed by the statute. And the thing with that statute is the statute says whatever the House determines. And so, some years it changes and some years it doesn't. The last few years it's been, went from 1 million to 1,090,000, I think, or 1,080,000, and now it's 1,195. And so we can have language in there that just says, or whatever the insurance determined by, the state of Colorado. And then we just kind of change it as we go. And we also put in language about how it's subject to, annual review and approval. And what that helps with because then even though we're spending time and resources and maybe not, paying, there's still, some TABOR issues there and some annual appropriation issues there. Because we're using town time and resources. And so going to an annual sort of recurring event, that allows some sort of like termination, 30, 60 days ahead of the event by the town based on convenience or whatever determination is made, I think is very prudent.
Great.
So should we make a motion to table this while indicating strong support for the underlying event?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Oh, thanks.
Trustee Davis. Yes. Trustee Craig.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yeah.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Member Tim Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Kirkland.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Moving on to continued business, 9B, consideration to allow Mullis Lake Campground to follow Forest Service fire restrictions.
And so Melissa's ran into this a couple of times when we haven't rescinded so it happened this year when we didn't rescind ours right away. And then they had some conflicts with some campers up there. So they asked if this was a possibility. I said I'd bring it to the board. But I do have a call into CIRSA right now, our insurance provider, to ensure that allowing Mullis to operate under the Forest Service is okay. They didn't get back to me in time, so we can either pull this and table it until we do have that information, or we can make a motion based off of the CIRSA if CIRSA is okay with it.
I think it's a great idea if CIRSA is okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes our restrictions in town are even less because we consider the fact that we are right next to facilities to, fire departments. So, so this might be more advantageous. We don't have anything on the books right now that says we have to. It's just been practice of what we've been doing. So I just kind of wanted to formally bring it to you all.
Were there any concerns by Sheriff's Department about, like, if Mullis allows open flame and town doesn't, or vice versa?
I didn't get a chance to talk to Bruce Conrad about this, and so I guess I would recommend that we table this until I have a conversation with him, and then I get the information from CIRSA.
Instead of tabling it, would you support us
Contingent?
voting on this contingent on approval from CIRSA and support from the Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
So moved.
Again, I should say the whole thing, but it would be a motion to allow Melissa Campground to operate under the San Juan National Forest fire restrictions contingent upon CERSA's approval and support from the sheriff's department.
So moved.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Krimiker.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And of course, if anything that goes really sideways or is complicated, you're welcome to bring it back to us. All right, so moving on to continued business 9C, consideration to adopt the draft 2022 through 2024 trustee goals.
All right, so these goals that you have, including supporting staff, adopting the master plan, housing, civic health, streamlining processes, and improving pedestrian infrastructure are the result of our trustee retreat on May 6th. If you all agree with the presented goals and timeline, we can formally adopt the goals with a motion. And future agenda memos will identify which goals are being met, if at all, so that you can evaluate the agenda items based on your identified goals.
That's beautiful.
I mean, wow.
Or we're adding organizational infrastructure as we speak.
I guess my only real question is, like, after reflecting on the goals that we set, how do these feel to staff? Is it a manageable scope of goals, and is the timeline included something that is more likely to create success than anxiety?
I think the implementation of all of the plans that we have creates a little stress and anxiety. Being completely honest, but we put the timeline as kind of a ongoing for those projects, but it does keep it all on the forefront. And this is exactly what I asked for. So I can't really go back and say, don't give me that. This is what I needed to kind of formulate our next couple of years. And it's already helped. So thank you for setting these.
Would there be any value in identifying any that seem particularly aspirational, just to manage public, board, and staff expectations?
You know, I think
Feel pretty great about
I think it is fun to be able to go back and forth through the goals. I do it with my own goals, and it just kind of helps keep you moving forward. So I've looked through these many times, and there's nothing I really want to erase.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of them were also the community's goals as well. And I feel like trying to cherry pick one out might not be in line with what their wishes are.
I really was impressed with how you distilled all the conversation we had at the retreat. And really feel like there's a lot of momentum in here and a lot of agreement. And it felt like there was a lot of enthusiasm for the direction we were going. And it brings, I think, a lot of transparency and accountability. So it's out there for the community to see as the master plan comes out. It's all just right out there. And I hope that it brings some, I don't know, fresh energy to town to see the things that we're working on, and that we were all really had some big priorities that we were all in agreement with that we could move forward with. So I appreciate how you put this together, Gloria, and the work that everybody here did to bring it to light. I also want to give a little context for number 6 about the pedestrian infrastructure and experience, because I thought folks that might be listening to this later might be like, wait, that's kind of, when have we talked about, like housing, we talk about all the time. And so I think something that we felt like we wanted to do as trustees, and anybody add on to this if you had a different perspective, but I think we thought that as the town is growing and changing, and as we're thinking about our master plan and larger development, really wanting to make sure that we're planning for how people move throughout town. And I think that was on our mind, but it might not always be on an individual community member's mind. So I just think I wanted to flag that in case people are like, what are you talking about? Walking sidewalks or paths here? But just reminding people that we're paying attention to down the road, how people move through town, how our trails connect, as things expand and grow, what do our gateways look like, all of that. And so just giving people reassurance that we're thinking about how that works for the future. So it's not just random. It had a lot of thought to it. I don't know, anybody?
I would just add that it actually touches on a huge number of other things as well, like parking, traffic flow.
Yeah.
Aging in place support, and a bunch of other objectives that the community's identified as important.
Yeah.
Wayfinding.
Yes, exactly. I think if people saw it on the page, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that was really well said, Dana. I'm glad you brought that up.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2022-24 trustee goals.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes. Trustee Cranker.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes,
Motion passes.
that was a 5 awesomes and 1 nice meeting in terms of what was in my mouth. That was their last primary agenda item. So we'll now move to public comment, which we're doing. We do have 2 different executive sessions this evening. We're going to do public comment ahead so that we don't ask everyone to leave and then come back just for public comment. Following public comment, we'll consider motions for executive session, and then we'll reopen the public meeting, which is protocol, that the only reason we reopen the public meeting is in order to adjourn it. And so anyone who would like to tune out following the public comment is welcome to. But this time we'll open up this meeting for public comment. We do have someone live in attendance. Would you like to make a public comment?
I'm just observing.
Okay, wonderful. In that case, we'll move to Zoom attendees. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button.
Don't call me. Yeah.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. So at this time, we'll ask our Zoom attendees to please voluntarily exit the meeting so that we can easily transition into our potential executive session. One quick question for Clay before we consider the motion for executive session. Are we able to do both executive session motions at the same time and have one continuous executive session, or do we need to do one, then exit, and then do a second and then exit?
You can have an executive session for multiple purposes. You just have to specifically state what each of those purposes are, and then during the executive session, be sure to stick to just those 2 topics and cleanly transition from one topic to another, so that if anybody were to win an appeal or get a core request granted and get the executive session, that there's a clean record.
Okay, perfect. All right, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of trustee discussion and staff direction under CRS section 24.64024A concerning the purchase acquisition of the Zanoni property. And then secondly, for the purpose of trustee discussion and staff direction under section 24.64024F of CRS concerning the comp time pay for exiting planner.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis.
Yeah.
Trustee Cranker.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to just take a quick break to let our last